are listening to Talking at a Slot, the podcast about having fun with slot cars. I'm Scott.
And I'm Nick. I'm slightly stunned by how loud that was when you came in there.
Sorry. Hello. I'm Brian Blessed. Hello. I'm not Brian. For those listening, I'm not Brian Blessed. Gordon is probably still alive. Anyway.
We're not comparing any slot car manufacturers this week, are we, Scott?
Not that we plan to, but you never know where it leads. You know,
it might
train
happen.
of consciousness or whatever you call it. Yeah, it might happen. It might happen. What I am keen to talk about, though, is another form of competition. So having done the World Cup, and thank you to everybody who has commented on that. It's been very interesting. It was good fun to do, and seemingly some of you had some good fun. Is that I went finally made my way down to the Worthing HO Club, which is slightly misleading because the night I went to wasn't HO, it was Scalextric Digital. And the reason I say finally is they hold these evenings on Saturdays, so it's either a Wednesday evening or Saturday throughout the year. And for one reason or another, every time it's come up, I thought, I must go. And I never have. Finally threw myself down there 2 weeks ago now. And it's fantastic. Absolutely. So to the guys down at Worthing HO Digital, or the club, made everybody welcome. I was one of about half a dozen or slightly more even newbies, people who'd never been before or even done the digital thing before. And the format is, so there's a huge digital track in this lovely old barn, which is great setting. And the cars are provided, and the first set of races were NASCAR, so Scalextric NASCAR, and the second set were Pioneer Legends. But if you stick with the NASCAR, for reasons which will become obvious, tease. So they divide the teams up, and there's one of the younger members is made captain, then one of the top drivers is allocated to each team, and then they kind of divide it all up, and one of the newbies was put in each team. And I was very lucky, as opposed to the people who got me given to them, in as much as the team I was in was rather good. So we then did 3 20-minute races, effectively, where you have to swap driver every 5 minutes. You have to do pit stops. And to break everyone in easily, for the first round, it's just pit stops to change drivers. There's no tyre wear, there's no fuel. Then they introduced fuel, so you have to go into pit stops, you have to refuel and then go. And for the final one, it was pit stops and tyres. So it got more complicated as you went along. Obviously, lane changing and all that sort of thing. So we got practice sessions, somebody told us how to do it. And then we did the races. Then we started off, our car actually, we weren't doing too well, but not too badly. And the car started shedding a rear wheel every couple of laps, which is less than optimum. So I thought, well, that's fine when we are. The second batch of 20 minutes, we won by 10 laps. And then it came into the final batch, and of course we're using a different car each time. And anyway, it was very nip and tuck, but I'm very pleased to see that the team I was in, and I'm phrasing that very carefully, the team I was in won. And much to my delight, we all got pushed up in front of us on a podium and presented with a medal. So I've got a
keep
medal
that on until you win another
racing.
one then.
I've been waiting a long time. A bit like my my Scottish celebration rugby top. And in the measure of how old it is, it's not even 6 nations, it's 5 nations. So, that's 25 years ago or something. So, fantastic. You know, it was £3. I didn't need to take a car. I didn't need to take a controller. I was made to feel very welcome. You got stuck in, you did marshalling, help pack away at the end of it, all that good stuff. So it was lovely. So thank you to the guys down there. I think someone said to me, and I'm pointing no fingers, that we'd previously referred to digital as, I think, something like the spawn of the devil. We say all sorts of things in the heat of the moment.
I think we can blame Pedro for that, can't we?
Yeah, it was the last guy. It was definitely the last guy. Anyway, let's get used to that, folks. There's an election coming. But it was great fun, and I was before we went on to record, I was trying to encourage you to come on down because I'd be interested to see what you make of it. It is kind of about how fast you go, but it's also about managing traffic. So it really is like proper endurance racing. It's quite fascinating. Anyway,
I like slot endurance, and my one digital experience was quite fun, although that was 1/24th. But so that everything was different. But yeah, that was lots of people driving at my backside and nerfing. Yeah, that.
Well, that's the thing to avoid. There is some a little bit like real racing. Yellows breed yellows, so that once you get a couple of cars off, the other cars arrive pretty quickly, and so
just get it out of the system all at once.
I should have stopped. You'll notice I haven't gone on to mention the Pioneer races which followed, which were essentially the same format, but it was two drivers and a kind of knockout system. It was just as much fun. I just didn't do so well. But I should have stopped after the NASCAR because, like you, a long time I did the first and only previous digital race I did was at a Margate weekend with Skeletric with the NSCC.
Oh, when you won something there, didn't you?
I won. I won that. So I should just retire from digital racing. It says something about how lucky I am. Anyway, enough of my gloating. But the medal, I'm very chuffed with that, and so it's going to go. And it's proper metal. I won't bite into it in Western fashion because my aged teeth will give out. But anyway,
that's what Olympians do now, isn't it? They all bite their medals.
Yeah, let's.
There you go. Scott gets silver at the slot car Olympics. Nice.
Slot car, yeah. I thought, do you know what? That's what we should do next. We've done the World Cup. We need to do the slot. We need to do the slot Olympics. Never mind. So, what have you been up to?
Relatively little. I'm dead jealous. I've had sort of family stuff going on the last few weeks, so I haven't raced competitive. I've done one competitive race since the new year. And that was on camera for the piece that's in this current issue of Motorsport, came out a couple of days ago. So 6 pages on slot racing in all its many forms.
Written by your good self, we should say.
Written by me, yes. Yeah. And featuring the likes of that John Underwood and several club members and some podcaster or other.
And also a certain model car brand manager as well who came along. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So everyone's in, and hopefully it's a nice piece for the hobby. And when someone like Motorsport, which is in its 100th year this year, I believe, says, "Can you do a piece on slot car racing? Because it looks quite interesting." You know, a lot of times it's a Mickey take, isn't it, in the regular media of the world? So it's nice to have the opportunity to present it as a thing, and so we did, and it was fun. And it was the one time I've seen a slot car track since 2023. So I'm looking forward to getting back out there again. I'm slightly galled that after all the build-up, I did manage to miss the opening round of Slot Rally GB. Congratulations need to go to Mr. Gareth Jones, who won all 3 classes on what I believe is his track, so home ground advantage. In which case, the margin of victory...
His club, we have to suggest, the tracks were all custom built for the event. It wasn't like he was racing on the thing he's raced on for the last 20 years. It was, but yeah, home haul advantage, which is it's fair enough.
Yeah, it's fair enough. But so props to that John Underwood then for finishing only 2 seconds behind him in both modern and classic. And for those of you who are interested in these things, it looks like the order in terms of performance of the cars is fairly unchanged at the moment. The top cars are the SRC Porsche 914 and Scale Auto Di Tommaso Pantera when it comes to classics. We've got the SRC Lancia Delta and the SRC Peugeot 205 Turbo 16 and the Ferrari 308 from Avant Slot at the top of the order when it comes to 80s, 90s cars. And we've got the Scale Auto Peugeot 208 and NSR Le Mans cars, which shouldn't be there.
Yes, you probably need to explain what you mean there.
Well, NSR GT3s do not resemble the Group N/Group R GT cars that took part in rallies in the noughties. and early tweens of the 21st century.
So it could be summed up by saying all 911s are not the same. It's probably the way.
And all Aston Martins are not the same.
Aston Martins as well, yeah.
Yeah. If you want an Aston Martin that looks like the Aston Martin rally car, it's the SCX one, the N24.
Okay.
Also, the SCX Porsche looks very much like the Porsche rally car. And SR1's
one of my favourite toy cars, that SCX 911 rally car. It's really good fun. I need to get some tyres for mine. Does this mean that come scrutineering at the season finale at Farnborough Park Club, you will be casting out these interlopers?
No, because it's not down to us, is it? It's down to the rules.
Okay. I was just trying to stir up some controversy, motorsport style, It would be in keeping with rallying if
some of the stages might be a little bit narrower than an NSR Le Mans GT3.
Whoops. Yeah, that would be unfortunate. I'm laughing wickedly there. I've got nothing to do with building the stages, don't worry. And it's the second round of as we speak, it's the second round of the Slot Rally Championship on 3rd of March.
It's literally third.
Second? Yeah,
third. This weekend?
It's the third, yes. It's the first today as we're recording.
I thought it was in 2 weeks' time.
No. Not well, unless I've got it very wrong. I think it's
I thought it was the 17th.
Without the professionalism of talking out a slot shines through. I'm fairly certain, without stopping recording and look, that it's the third. Because that was the reason I'm not going, or one of the reasons I'm not going is I've just driven back down from Scotland, so the notion of driving a third of the way back doesn't appeal. But that's bad planning on my part. Anyway, in terms of other stuff, you sent me a note of things you wanted to talk about. One of them was slightly controversially, and I want to just touch on it because I quite like a little bit of controversy. And I meant to have my Carrera pit girls to hand, actually, which may give some people a hint of what it is. No, we were, as real motorsport is ramping up. Okay, there's been a couple of rounds of the World Rally Championship, but nobody watches that, so it doesn't matter. So
the FIA has now decided to ensure that nobody watches it going forward.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should start doing a real motorsport podcast. That would be a whole different kettle of fish, wouldn't it? But I think the rule change is quite good. The hybrid cars have not been a success in the sense that there aren't very many of them.
But there's still silhouette cars on space frames. And okay, the argument is it's cheaper to make a racing car look like a road car than to make a road car look like a racing car. To engineer that. But the point of the sport is that link to the showroom. And if people can see very plainly that the cars are not related to what they could potentially be pottering around in, don't know. I mean, WRC was successful because you could go and buy an Evo. You could go and buy an Escort. You can't go and buy these.
I think it's the other way around. I think it was successful because there was lots of cars and competition. And there was lots of cars because lots of manufacturers could build cars to meet the regulation. The hybrid rule is very expensive, and therefore lots of people are going, what won't bother doing that? Take Skoda, for example, happily building lots of Rally 2 cars, not the slightest bit interested in building the top class one. So yeah, I think I think it'll be a good thing. I think it'll be a good thing.
Well, it makes it the only other frontline series with no hybrid content or alternative powertrain content apart from NASCAR. So that's nice. We had a couple of NASCAR rounds. Atlanta was very exciting. All those looking forward to Carrera's output towards the end of the year should be jolly excited.
For the American listeners, sorry, I know that there's more than two now. We're growing, but anyway, hello and welcome. By the way, I watched the highlights, and basically, I mean, in 3-minute highlight reel, I saw endless yellow flags and crashes and stuff, and it turned into, what was it, a 3-lap dash? So, what was the point of the preceding 3 hours?
Daytona was a disappointment, but Atlanta last weekend was amazing and one of the better races I've ever seen. And the margin of victory was 0.003 of a second, and it was 3 ways. So everyone did memes of the end of the race in cars when Lightning McQueen has his tongue out to win it.
Yeah, I don't know. But that was artificial. You say that though, the end of the race, but that they'd all lined up going slowly, only 6 miles earlier, hadn't they?
There was a caution.
Yeah, so the race was umpteen laps wrong. If they just let it race, then somebody would have won by laps. But it was, anyway, I know NASCAR cars fantastic as a spectacle. It's fantastic, but as competition, I really don't get it. Anyway, and that's despite me watching the behind the scenes documentary series that you're urging. I wouldn't say insisting, but you're urging, which was enjoyable enough. It shows you how long since I've been interested in NASCAR. They all look too thin and too young to be NASCAR drivers. NASCAR drivers are all big, burly blokes, not thin jockeys. It's really all gone wrong. And Formula One apparently still happens, and they're going to have another season, which bemuses me.
We haven't yet got to qualifying yet, have we? So something might change in the meantime. There could be a Google Drive that has been unexposed.
Well, it says something when the possible shenanigans of members of the team who don't compete on the track have grabbed the headlines for weeks rather than the cars. It's ceased to be a sport. It really is a soap opera, but never mind. Yes, I haven't watched for ages. But segueing back to slot cars, Scalextric have launched their Williams and McLaren F1 cars, which were from last year, I think.
22.
22. And you pointed out the modern Formula One cars are very long, and we now know the real reason for the bigger Scalextric box. Exactly. It wasn't the Blues Brothers car. It wasn't for Fab One. No. It was to fit modern Formula One cars. And someone, perhaps unkindly, put the Scalextric car alongside the NSR car, was it?
Yeah.
Was it an NSR or a Scale Auto?
So NSR's done its Formula 22, hasn't it? Because it doesn't have any licenses for anything. And I suppose, in a way, well, fair enough then. It's not a Formula One car, so it can be whatever shape and size you want. And so it's considerably shorter and considerably wider.
I wonder why. Yes, probably NSR haven't invested in a bigger box. This is it, you see.
Oh, so that's the reason. Yeah.
Not only have Scalextrics invested in the licenses, they invested in a bigger box. So, if you want reality, that's the way. I'm being slightly tongue in cheek, but seriously, those things don't come cheap. A Formula One license and whatever the cost of tooling up for a new box, that probably didn't come cheap either. So good on them for sticking by that when others are just making approximations. But
the shape of the cars isn't altogether that different between them. You could actually just do a generic jelly mold F1 and stick whatever colours on it you want. But
you could, and they might, but they didn't. And I think that's
well, they did it before, didn't they?
I don't think they've ever. The
last generation of F1s, they did a generic one which appeared in a sort of a faux Williams livery and a faux McLaren livery, I think. Which is fine.
Those are like real starter cars, aren't they? Yeah. Oh no, they've always done kind of sort of basic single-seater things. But anyway, am I going to buy one? No, I did. I'm curious about. It's going to sound bad. I'm curious about how long it is, but because I wonder how it goes. Don't snort. I was going to say that brings us back to the Red Bull emails, doesn't it?
It does. Really.
How would it handle normal curves?
Well,
they're going to need borders. I can see your face, listeners. I can see on his face there are a number of things that Mr. Garton is considering saying.
It would probably send It'll probably send a few inappropriate text messages.
Fortunately, he's holding himself back, which is jolly good. Let's move on. Can I? This is sounding like terribly boast. I'm going to get a sign to put behind me, which I failed to print out for today. Which is, when you go into a factory and it says "days since accident."
Oh yeah,
and it's they've changed the number and they're very proud when it gets to a huge long number. I'm going to have a days since slot car, and had I got one behind me at the minute, it would read 0 because yesterday arrived a parcel from Spain, which had 2 Lancia Delta team slot models in it, which I bought from Hobby Classic. All came. I mean, I think it took a couple of weeks, but that's fine. Why did I buy them from there? Well, one of the reasons is, again, for those of you watching in radio, I'll have to describe what I'm holding up. So the Bastos liveried Group A Delta. It's a lovely thing. It was a special edition only done for Hobby Classic, hence the reason I bought it for them. I got the clean version. I'm not terribly into dirty cars. So at the same time, I also bought the new toe tip car.
In an appropriate shade of green.
Interesting technicality, but it's nice and bright, unlike perhaps the SCX car, which is, I'll forgive it a lot of things. This has got a suspended axle, which is almost impossible for me to demonstrate on radio. But I'm looking forward to giving those a run on the track later. And a little bit before that, the reason, by the way, I should explain, the reason for this apparent splurging on cars is I had a tax rebate. And for those of you who don't get these things, they don't happen very often, do they? So normally they phone you up and say, you owe us more money. So when they grudgingly admit that they've got too much of your money and they have to give it you back, and you say, would you like us just to keep it and take it off any future? You go, no, I would really quite like it. Thank you very much.
You immediately dial up Hobby Classic.
Well, not yet, partly that, but also then there was a Facebook post from Scale Models said, look, we've listed some new stuff. So I thought, I'll have a look, I'm just curious. And they are in what I think are sort of mint and boxed. They're certainly very nice. There were 2 old original SCX Ferrari 288 GTOs. The 7-Up green, all green with 7-Up livery. Not a real car, I think. I think it's a fantasy livery, but, I forgive it for all of that. And then also a Pioneer livery, which I think would have been a real livery on a Ferrari 308, not a 288, obviously. And I just went, yes, and bought both of those as well. So 2 old Ferraris and 2 new Lancias have arrived. But as I say, this is thanks to Her Majesty's government giving me back some of my own money. Thank you very much. So later, when I'm finished with you, recording the podcast, I shall be out trying to warm up the slot shed because it's not had any heating in it for a week, and get the track up to some sort of temperature, and give these things a few laps round.
Nice.
Which would be good fun.
Yeah.
So anything caught your eye though? Anything you fancy buying?
Yeah, the Slotit's Rothmans Canada liveried 962 is now in the stockists.
I think I just say that's one of the rare occasions when the slot car looks better than the real car. That real car livery looked like a kind of cobbled together, last minute sponsorship with a bit of tape and paint thing. The slotted car looks absolutely beautiful.
It's odd though. I mean, every single time I've done a livery on a slotted Porsche and stuck it on Slot Forum, everyone immediately goes, "Oh, I'd really love the Rothmans Canada one." I'm like, okay. Well,
I would have been. I'm surprised at that, but seeing what they've done with it, I can see the attraction. So
yeah, it's pretty.
Have you? Does this mean you're? I mean, you've got a number of.
I have. It's a nice round
slotted.
Number. I'm loath to sort of go odd with my numbers. I like them even. 60.
Like 60. That's a coincidence in a way, because only last week our friends at Fly announced that they've done 60 liveries on the Renault 5 Turbo. And no, I don't have them all.
Is this now a target?
Yeah, there was a sort of voice in my head went, oh, but no, and they've announced another one. So I don't know whether that's the 60th or the 61st, but anyway, I'm sure there'll be more to come. But that's quite interesting. So you're on a par with Fly Renault 5 turbos.
Yeah, but Fly hasn't written a book about Porsche 956s and 962s, so they have got no excuse.
No, they're hopefully making money out of it all, but that's who knows with slot car
They
funding.
tell a story, my ones. So there's one chassis which goes for 6 years, which is nice.
It's nice.
Yeah,
you could do that. We could have little special editions of bedtime stories with Nick and slot car stories.
people
there you go.
into a coma.
I'm trademarking that now. Slot car stories is ours. Nobody nick it. And we'll be shortly producing a series of audio podcasts with Nick revealing tales from the Porsche 956, 962.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? And
yes,
also in a Rothmans,
we are doing it.
In a Rothmans zone, we've got Rothmans Ford P68s from NSR, because
Rothmans is the new Gulf. That's
yeah. So I saw those and went, really? And NSR's also brought out its €300 motor.
Sorry, I'll do that again. What? So that's a 6 slot car motor.
Yes.
By my terms, you can buy 6 Electric or Carrera for one motor.
Yes.
And what does it do for this?
Whatever it does it without brushes. It does it by witchcraft, and you pay that extra €288 for the witchcraft that goes into it. Somebody's got a cauldron, frog's legs, and it all just happens. Apparently, these things are for the serious racer, and only for it's just fine. If you want to do it. Why not? If you got 300 quid to burn.
I'm vaguely aware of brushless motors in RC cars. I've never seen one.
They don't cost €300.
I guess they're a bit bigger. I don't know. Does miniaturization bring with it? So I genuinely, despite the fact that I've got a bit of paper that says I'm an engineer, I've no idea how a brushless electric motor works.
Maybe that's what they're relying on. Although clearly, if that is what they're relying on, it's quite successful because they have sold out. They were announced like a week ago, and they're all gone.
Wow. So we will shortly be seeing some sort of arms race of slotless motors, brushless motors.
I don't know. Would anyone use them in a? Would anyone try and shoehorn one into a Scale Electric Rover or something? That might be a bit odd. I think they're mainly intended for metal chassis wingy things, aren't they? I don't know.
Oh, those are the things you can't see going round. Those
Basically,
ones.
Yeah. Just ensuring that you can't see them. You just stand there in front of a wide open, empty track with a slightly serene look on your face as people hear this.
The marshals having to wear baseball pitcher, not baseball catcher gear, full face helmets and padding just in case the car comes off. That's if there's an envelope of slot car fun, I'm at the opposite corner from it. I'm at the corner where I don't mind it going quite slow and sliding around because I like watching it going round. Whereas those wingy things are obviously I don't care what it looks like because I can't see it and it's just going very fast, which is fine. That's what you enjoy. It's just not what I do. 300 quid. Of course, the trouble is the quick, the competitive, however you want to, the guys who are used to winning races and spending money to do so will buy them. So the same people will still probably win. It's just that they'll be using this thing and everybody will have to step up a bit. Anyway, it's probably not as bad as magnets. Then we can leave. Magnets are the bad thing. Bad. I am worried. The little I do know about electromagnetic thingy-bob is that the sheer number of magnets that I've taken out of slot cars that are all clustered together in a sort of giant ball in the corner of the garage is probably bending light round about my house.
Yeah, I've got a section of one of my little plastic divided tubs, which is for where the magnets go, and it's quite fun to see how it pulls things towards it.
Is there a sort of quiet hum, a sort of
Exactly,
bristling little metallic dust on the corners of it? Never mind. Anything else that you've seen that you fancy?
No.
Slot car wise.
Yeah,
Slot car.
Exactly.
Sorry, that Red Bull story keeps looming.
Yeah, there's so many guys in motorsport, the professional sport, going, dear, oh, I can't. Yeah. But no, not much has, if I'm honest. It's been quite quiet. There's been the release of some stuff that's been expected. Nothing really new announced. Just a few repaints of stuff. BRM 124th escorts with weirdly shaped screens and pillars.
Well, the 2024's MR slot car Shadow appears to be the Revo slot Datsun, doesn't it? So it's February and everybody's declaring it's the best car of the year already. I haven't seen one in the metal, because a big chunk of it is metal. I like Revo slot cars, and I think they're a bit mixed, but I'm not quite sure why everybody's so mad about that one. I am sure when the slotted version comes, it'll go faster, but that's a different thing. Another thing you missed because of, as you say, you were otherwise engaged, was the Milton Keynes swap meet, which I went up to. I haven't been there for ages. It's run by the NSCC, and it used to be, and still is to a degree, kind of the place where, if you like, I would say the non-commercial side of it. That's the wrong way, but because it was organised by the club, it used to be the one where all of the little manufacturers of bits and pieces, or your spare tyres, or old motors and all that sort of thing went to. They're more visible at other events these days, but it still had that vibe to it. And so it was interesting wandering around. Bought a few things, which was always nice. Talked to lots of people, which was nice. People coming up saying they listen to us, which is always very nice. But a special shout out, and I hope he's listening, to a chap called Michael, who kind of stopped me as I was browsing away. It's always slightly. I'm always glad people do, but it's always slightly awkward to go, "Are you from Talking Utter Slot?" Anyway, he said some very complimentary things, and that was very nice. Thank you. So, Michael, thank you for listening. It was nice to meet you. And to anybody else, if you see us out and about, if you've got something nice to say, come up and say it. If you haven't got anything nice to say, the Facebook comments, no, I'm joking. Nobody said anything too nasty to me. And you never know, I've still got a few Talking Utter Slot stickers, so if I've got some in my pocket, that tends to be the way I give them out now. If somebody comes up and says they're a listener, then, especially if they've listened to all of them. Yeah. But so even in terms of swap, of course, the biggie, Gaydon in May, is now technically, as we're talking in March, only a month and a half away. I'm exaggerating a bit, 2 months really, but it's
What's
close.
the date of that, Scott?
20. So your dates, see you in dates. Like, which date is this? Which you don't. I'm retired. I barely know what day it is. I don't know what date it is. I think it's towards the end of May. Julie Scale will be shouting at her podcast. It's this, you idiot. If you look it up, I'm sure it'll be readily available. But yes. But I'm really looking forward to. I'm even toying with the ideas of going both days. Sort of, it could be proper festival. Camping at Gaydon.
Well, see, it normally falls firstly on my eldest two daughters' birthday weekend, because they're within 361 days of each other, but also usually a motorsport event as well. But as I'm not currently scheduled to be doing much, I'm taking the opportunity to take one of said daughters to see Mr. Gary Newman in concert.
Wow.
Which might be...
Does she want to go? I can tell why her dad wants to go.
Yeah. Actually, it remains to be seen. We talked about it last night, and I sent her over a few videos to watch while she was having her student pasta. And I've yet to hear anything back, which could mean one thing or another.
So this obviously answers the question, what did she say when you told her? Because she went, who?
Obviously, she went who. She does that with anyone I talk about. The Doors. Who?
Well, the Doors are a little bit older than Gary Newman. Surely she must
Yeah, but
recognise.
she's a student. You're supposed to be wearing tie-dye and, thinking you should be joining the 27 Club or something. That's what students do.
Nah,
Then they get
anymore.
a job, earn money, and go, well, this is fun. I'm going to keep doing this.
Keep doing this, yeah. Nah. Oh, well, that's good. Well. So, where will you be seeing Mr. Newman?
In Bournemouth.
Which, given his age, is probably quite appropriate, actually.
Well, it's the 45th anniversary of his first 2 albums.
I was going to say, what age is Gary Newman? And yes, so he's older than me, probably.
He's 63. Yeah.
He is older than me, but he's got old airplanes, so I'm always jealous. I don't know. Does he still?
No.
Does he not? He doesn't do that anymore.
No.
Okay.
Last time I went to see him was 2014, and I did the meet and greet thing. And I always used to see him at air shows, and I built a model of his old Harvard that he used to do air displays in, and he signed it for me. In fact, it's right here. Should I get it?
Yes.
Hold on.
Yes. See, we should change this to slot cars and more. You never know where we're going with this. Gary Newman signed model aircraft. If it wasn't for the fact that it would fall foul of the copyright things, I would obviously overlay this with a slice of Gary Newman music, but I won't do that. Of course, Nick's not got his earphones. Hasn't.
I have to say, these meet and greets are funny things. And I was probably the only person there who didn't ask him about, why the rationale for the sleeve cover choice on certain single in 1983, what that was all about and what his inspirations were for that. And I was like, let's talk about planes, shall we? And we had a really nice sort of 20 minutes. And apparently his brother is now the senior instructor for new pilots at EasyJet.
Wow.
So there you go.
So
here is the Newman Harvard.
Yes. Because he famously did have it. He had it decorated as a Japanese zero for...
He did.
Because Harvards, in old movies, young folk, when they didn't really have CGI and things, they would get old Harvards, which are American training planes, because the canopy kind of looked like a zero. That is fantastic. I hope you've is that now sprayed over with some sort of glossy sealant to stop it fading and all that sort of thing?
No, it isn't, and it should be, because as you can see, it's a little bit dusty.
Yeah, you need one of the magic Tamiya unicorn tail brushes. I don't think they actually are made of unicorn tail, but they should be given the price them. But Tamiya sell this brush, which is magical for getting dust off models without breaking anything. This is sort of I shall send you a link. But that's
got
great.
A few signed Newman bits. I've got a couple of posters and a couple of cassettes, so that's all right. But,
so you're a bit of a fan, and yet even so, your daughter still had to go. Who?
Yeah. She's only just starting to learn about the Beatles, so there we are.
Anyway.
But no, it's a thing, and I love it. And yeah, I've been my first Gary Newman gig was 1987. I was 14, and my uncle took me.
Brilliant. Right, I'm gonna call a halt because you guys were getting very nostalgic now, and we're not talking about slot cars, which may be more entertaining than talking about.
Well, I'll try and run some slot cars. In fact, sounds like I might have to run some this weekend unexpectedly, which means I better finish building them. Which means we better go.
Okay, right. Thank you for that. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to hearing if Nick gets to Oxford or not. Bye, everybody.